Marcus and Terry with you on this wonderful Thursday, or as my old gym coach used to say, Thursday. Every day was a D, Thursday, and then you got to lift the weights. That's how he talked. But at any rate, don't want to bring any flashbacks of gym class to anyone. Certainly not myself. So today what we're going to do is we are going to do a Q&A like last week. The Q&A went so good last week, we thought we'd include it this week, and I didn't really have a topic for this week, so hey, it worked out pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in and cover all the bases here. Let's make sure everything is rocking and rolling. Looks like it's good. How's the sound quality for me and Terry? If it's good, say good. If one of us is quiet, say quiet.
Well, I haven't said anything yet. Good
There we
morning,
go.
everybody. Hey, Chris, good to see you. Glad you're helping others with sobriety. It's awesome. 7 years. See, you can stay sober. Crystal, good job on 50 days. That's incredible.
Awesome. Cool. All right, so if I don't choke on this stuff here, for some reason I need to get a filter or something.
Megan, 24, right
There we
on.
go. Megan, 24. That is awesome. I know you've been struggling, and I think that's the longest we've seen so far from you, so that's awesome.
Good job.
All right, so we're going to keep an open forum kind of thing. If you guys have questions about sobriety, questions about staying sober, feel free to type them in the box, and we will get to those as we can and fix you guys up. So take it away. We got Jason says he had 6 months, but he's back to 5 days, but he's doing well. Good. That's what we like to hear is, hey, you know what? I might have had a slip. I might have had a problem, but I'm back. That's the key is coming back. Now, don't bank on the problem. Don't bank on, I'm going to relapse or whatever. Bank on, hey, let's stay sober. But if for some reason, some circumstances happen, try to get back on that horse. Try to get back there and say, hey, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm going to cut this off, nip it in the bud or whatever they say. I never understood that phrase. Nip it in the bud or nip it in the butt, something like that. I don't know. But make sure you get it, and stick with it. So go ahead and type your questions in the box. Terry and I will be here for the next hour to answer your questions. Again, we're not doctors or trained therapists or anything like that. We're just two guys who managed to stay sober and found a really good life in sobriety, and we want to share that with you and share kind of what's gone on in our lives and what has helped us to stay sober, what it was like in the grips of alcohol, what it's like getting out of it, and what it's like living sober on a daily basis. So,
That's right.
yes.
And Cassie, you said that last week you wrote in that you'd fallen off the bandwagon and was on day three, and that you got 10 days so far. So good job. And a lot of people relapse, and it happens. And just for what I see is just jump back on that bandwagon, get back in there. It doesn't matter what you did before.
Mm-hmm.
What matters is right now, today. Can you stay sober today? You can worry about tomorrow when you get there, but just try to stay sober today. And I hear a lot of people that have had relapses, and it kind of seems sometimes that everybody relapses, and that's not at all the case. You can get sober one time and stay sober the rest of your life, one day at a time. It can happen. And I
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of people that have just gone that route, and they didn't have to relapse. Me, I struggled with it for a little bit, but I have managed to stay sober up until today for a little while now.
Yeah, and that's what you got to remember is that it is a day-to-day thing, and it's the battle gets easier as you go along, but the battle also gets easier to think that you have it handled. A lot of people, they're like, hey, you know what, I got this handled. Maybe they get sober and they're like, well, I think I drank because I didn't get along with my mom or my spouse or whatever. And now that's all good. And, I could probably go back to drinking now because I got that all sorted out. And that was the real reason I drank. But that's kind of an elusive thing because, the real reason we drink is because we're alcoholics. You can blame everything that you want on alcohol. And it's like I tell my kids all the time. I'm like, what good is it going to do to know where it came from? Like, what good? So, if I know I'm anxious, what does that do other than point to the anxiety or point to the depression or whatever it is that I say I am, instead of looking at it and being like, well, let's focus on the solution. Like, yeah, that's all cool and all. Like, I got this anxiety now. This is what I got. We don't need to go into, hey, this came from back when you were 5 years old and this and that. We can actually look at it and say, well, what are we going to do about it? Right? I drink because of this. I drink because of that. Okay, whatever. What are you going to do about it? Because
Right.
staying sober doesn't have anything to do with talking to your mom or your spouse or whoever you had an argument is or whatever you think the reason is. Being sober has to do with not drinking and has to do with a change of mindset of, hey, you know what? This drink is making my life worse. This drink is not making anything good. Maybe it takes the anxiety away, perceived anxiety, but I think you'll find out when you quit drinking, wow, anxiety wasn't as bad before you started drinking and it got real bad. So we got to really look at that. Couple of comments coming in here if you want to take some of those.
Sure. Let's see. Cassie said also a cool little hack for everyone. I'm using about 2 ounces of pomegranate juice with about 1 ounce of orange juice and a wee bit of lemon juice and fill the glass with sparkling water. Yum. And something like that for me is it's it's one of those things that I do for like when I go out and other people are having drinks or something like that with alcohol. I do something like a 7 Up with a splash of cranberry, and
Mm-hmm.
that satisfies me. I don't deal with alcohol cravings anymore. It's been a long time since I have, but but that's one of the go-tos for me. Is I save a special drink, something like that pomegranate juice drink, for those special occasions. Me personally, I don't know if I would do pomegranate juice for myself, but that's because one of my favorite drinks is pomegranate martinis. So that I would, me personally, I'd just stay away from that because I don't know if it'll trigger a craving or not.
Mm-hmm.
So, but having a go-to drink, something like that, is great. And I drink a lot of sparkling water. I should just switch it to regular water, a lot cheaper. But I drink a lot of sparkling water throughout the day, or lemon water and stuff like that, and that helps me
Yeah,
stay.
same here. I like little weird drink concoctions that don't have alcohol. I found out that for me, I drink a lot of whatever I drink. So like if I have water, I drink a lot of water. If I have Coke, I drink way too much Coke. If I have tea, I drink way like I obsess about it. Not really obsessed, but like I always need to be hydrated. And so I notice, hey, I need some stuff to kind of like not be boring because to me water's kind of boring regular. I like the sparkling water, something. I like the Diet Coke, although I read a report about Diet Coke, so I'm trying to not have as many. Although I'm sure alcohol will kill me a heck of a lot quicker than Diet Coke will.
That's
Um, so you just got to look at what works for you and what you like, and remember that you don't have to, like someone said that they worry about what others think, and I know that's a big thing in sobriety is what are others going to think when I'm not drinking. Well, they're probably not going to think straight because they're drinking, so really not a big worry, and they're probably not even going to remember if you drank anyway. I just went to a concert the other day with my kids and one of their friends, and we go there, and they're like, hey, are you going to be drinking? You need a wristband. And I'm like, I don't need a wristband because I ain't going to be drinking. And I didn't, I actually enjoyed the fact that I didn't drink, and I enjoyed the concert so much better. Because it was like I'm present, I can hang out, I'm not falling down. I'm not the guy like the guys right next to us. It was a big crowded venue where everyone was standing, and these guys were drunk, and one said boo to the band, and the other thought that was worthy of a face punch, and a brawl broke out, and I'm like, hey man, I could totally protect my kids back here because I'm sober, and I could probably win a fight even though the guy's like 10 times bigger than me because he's drunk, and I could push him over real quick. So those kind of things, you look at them and it's like, I love being sober.
yeah.
There is nothing like I watch people at the concert, and they're all, it was a 90s band, so it's a bunch of like 38 to 40-year-old men that think they're still 20, and they're all drinking and everything. Oh yeah, why aren't you having any? And I'm like, I don't need it anymore. And that's one of the most freest things in life is I don't need it anymore. That's an eye opener. It's like I don't need it. You want to drink? No, I don't need it anymore. I had plenty of drink, which is cool. All right, let's take a couple others here. Where did we leave off?
Let me see here. Um, Crystal said that being on day 10, the post alcohol withdrawal syndrome, the
Hmm.
depressive feelings and shame is really hard. And yeah, on day 10, that's definitely still in that funk. And it takes a while, and it's just trying to do everything you can for sobriety. And one thing that helps a lot is talking to other sober alcoholics like
Hmm.
us, or
Yeah.
a meeting at a hospital, or a 12-step meeting, something like that. Getting because people, sober alcoholics, have been there. We've gone through that. I went through that. I was in the time that I went through withdrawal when I was conscious. I was in a rehab, and
Hmm.
day 10, I was starting to feel quite a bit better, but I still was pretty messed up. It took me a few months actually to get to feeling somewhat normal.
Yeah. And one thing also, when you look at depressive feelings and shame, shame is like, I guess it would be like the kind of like a precursor to guilt or something like that. Very similar. And when we look at shame and guilt and things like that, we have to remember that a lot of what we did with alcohol, even though it's our responsibility, like if I go do something, if I yell at someone or get in a fight with alcohol, that's absolutely my responsibility. But it's also not me, right? This is something that alcohol has done to your brain, right? Like if I starved you for a week and took away, all your basic necessities for a week and only gave you water or something, at the end of the week, you're going to be a completely different person, right? You'll probably be like ornery, you'll probably be grouchy, you'll probably do whatever you have to do that you wouldn't have done the week before to get some food. Right? You'd be like, what the hell? I need food. Okay, I was an upstanding person in church before, but now I'm going to go steal a banana off my neighbor's tree, even though I think stealing's wrong because your body has been affected by chemical stuff that needs to happen. The same thing happens with alcohol, where we are actually altered by chemical stuff. And it's very important to realize that because it goes to show the power of the situation and the power chemical control has over you. And when you let your body and your mind be controlled chemically, you don't know what you're going to do. Like, I look back at stuff and I'm like, what a freaking asshole I was. What the hell was wrong with me? And it's like, yeah, there was something wrong with me. And what was wrong with me is that I allowed a chemical to do that to me. That's what was wrong. Like, the stuff that was happened, unless you're a complete, jackass after you get sober and you continue those, which I think is probably like maybe 0.1% of the alcoholics. Um, but most people, it's not something they would do in their right mind. It's almost like, hey, there's a temporary insanity kind of thing. And for me, alcohol did make me temporarily insane. I did not see the world right. And I can sit here and I can have shame and guilt over that. Or I could say, you know what? That wasn't the true me. I'm going to get back to the true me and I'm going to live my amends to the world. I'm going to be different in the world. Whatever I did when I drank, I'm going to do the exact opposite. If I was an asshole when I drank, I'm going to be nice to people when I don't. Or something like that, where you're like, I'm going to live it. And this is something that I dealt with having kids in alcoholism. Was like, okay, I can sit and I can say sorry, which sorry really only makes me feel better. Like they're like, whatever, Dad, yeah, I wish you didn't drink, but hey, whatever. What really makes a difference is being different and hearing them say, Dad, I know you're different now. I know that you try hard now. I know that wasn't you, right? And that's my 2 cents on the shame issue, and hopefully that helps. So yeah.
Right on. Jason, it was for me. For me, it was caring too much what others think of me. It really was none of my business. And yeah, through the height of my drinking, that my entire goal was to drink as much as I could and not let anybody know because I cared what they thought about me. I didn't want to be labeled a drunk or an alcoholic or that guy's an asshole or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that for me that was huge, and I think that's common with most alcoholics.
Mm-hmm. That's
Definitely.
why we go to different liquor stores on the
Yep.
same day.
Yeah. When
It's
the
like
guy
I can't
doesn't
go see
really care.
Bob. I got to go see Ted. He doesn't know I had a fifth already. As
Yeah.
if he cares. He's making his
Yeah.
living because I buy a lot of alcohol, but I don't. I don't think they care.
And
And
then
even if they do,
yeah.
you know
Right.
what? Whatever.
Right.
Okay. Crystal says she relapsed after 4 years and she thought she could handle managing my drinking. I just wanted to numb myself. That's a common thing, thinking that you can handle it, thinking you can, hey, I'm good. I've been sober 10 years. Probably going to be fine. But the problem is that it activates stuff. That's why they call it the sleeping dragon, I believe is what they use. And the dragon is asleep. And when you drink, he wakes up. Why does he wake up? Because what happens is your brain causes neural pathways, right? These pathways go together. So like if Terry comes up to me every day and he slaps me on the side of the head and says, "You're a dick." And every day he does that. Every day he does that. Pretty soon, when he does that, I'm going to duck automatically. When anyone does that, I'm going to duck. When anyone says, "Hey, you're a dick," I'm probably going to feel pain on my head. Terry's a nice guy. He would never do that. But you get the idea, right? And what happens is the neural pathway connects Terry hitting the word dick with pain. Okay? Same thing happens in your brain where you're having these things connect. Now, when you drink, you have a lot of neural connections that say alcohol fixes this. Alcohol is good. You need more alcohol. Alcohol is going to numb the feeling. Alcohol is going to numb the pain. You can't live with pain without alcohol. And what happens is we stop drinking for a while. And we're like, hey, we're doing pretty good. But then we have that alcohol, and boom, it lights up that neural pathway like lightning storm in Florida. And bing, 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 bing. It's like a pinball machine goes off, and everything's lit up just from one drink. Even the smell of a drink, even the thought of a drink, right? And then when you get that first drink down you, your senses are numbed. All bets are off. And that's what happens with people. That's why I don't drink today, even though it's like, hey, you know what? I could probably handle it. Who the hell knows if I can or can't? But I know that's going to happen. That stuff's going to light up, and I'm going to be chemically doctored, which who knows what's going to happen, right?
Right.
So, and Terry, I think you've seen a lot of people deal with that, going back or thinking that they can handle it.
Absolutely. That's one of the things with an alcoholic is one of our great obsessions is that we think we can drink like a normal person. And once we have that first drink, usually, well, often you're triggered, and then you don't have control of it anymore. It may not happen that day. It may take a couple of weeks, but the justification starts to kick in, and very often people they're back to where they were or worse, as alcohol is progressive, and your alcoholism will continue to progress as time goes on, whether you're drinking or not.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, I see it all the time, and it's for me, it's a good reminder for me that I have to continue to work on sobriety daily, and that I have to make sure I stay away from that first drink.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely. Chris Hopper, you got some great comments here, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I think you mentioned earlier you also have a channel, and thank you so much for helping us share the message. That's great. And you got some great comments here. Your first comment is the best. Sobriety is great, and
it is great.
sobriety is great. And you said your go-to for me is MTG. I don't know what MTG is. Do you, Marcus?
Mountain Dew or something. I don't know what that is. MTG.
Monster. I'm trying to think of what it is, but
maybe a monster.
Tell us in a second. Staying spiritual is the key to my sobriety, and for me, spirituality is pretty important as well. And yeah, that's great. And you also said good orderly direction, so the acronym for God. There you go. Michael Smith, morning from Montana. Could you guys address remorse in one of these live chats sometimes? And yeah, that's a big one. For me, I for things that I was remorseful about, I wrote them down, and I worked on them, and then I looked at what I did, and exactly what I did, and what may have caused it, and where was I selfish or just disrespectful for other people, and I just worked on that, and then I tried to fix the problem, and if I wasn't, I tried to fix the problem in a different way, like helping other people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and again, going back to the shame issue, it's kind of similar where shame and remorse are kind of together, and the key is to be different, right? Be different. Start today and say, hey, you know what? Instead of feeling remorse, I'm going to be different. Like if I, was mean and I didn't take care of people or whatever, I'm going to be the opposite now. I'm going to go out of my way to take care of people. If I was selfish, I'm going to go out of my way to be selfless. If I was crude, I'll go out of my way to be, whatever the opposite is, whatever you're remorseful of, and be the change that you want to see in your own life. Like, what do you want to see? What are you remorseful about? How can I change it? For me, I try to do a lot better. Like, can I do better? Can I be better? Can I help people more? Can I, be a blessing to someone, or whatever you want to call it?
Right. But Michael, I'm not sure if we've done a video specifically on remorse or not. But that's a great topic. Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
we can probably cover that coming up here. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And Quessy says, never felt better being sober.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Me too.
Me three.
Let's see. THC Gamer, good to see you again, man. And there was another one that I saw. Anyways, I'll read THC's. Hey guys, glad to be here. Sober 40 days today. Still in cast on right leg, attending AA meetings lately. Very supportive environment.
Awesome.
Great. That's it. Do what you got to do. That's what I do. I do everything I can for sobriety. Make that my top priority in life. If I wasn't sober, I pretty much wouldn't have anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I just make sobriety the top priority as I go through my day.
Yep. Absolutely. Let's see here. Lynn says, I don't care what others think. If I don't drink, I have to do what's best for me. Absolutely. Like, no one, like, is someone really a friend if they have to have you drink around them? Like, probably not. And I've never met anyone who's like, no, dude, if you're going to hang out with us, you need to drink. Usually people are pretty supportive if you tell them the issue. And you're like, hey, you know what? Drinking doesn't work for me. It does something to my brain that's different than everyone else's. It's in science books, so, who's going to argue with science? So you just got to look at it that way. All right. Chris says sobriety's fun for me. Also me. I have way more fun now. I love
Yeah,
life.
totally.
Yep. Lynn says she's on day 14 and feeling pretty good. Awesome. Jess, you want to take Jess?
Sure. Hey guys, 18 days sober. Hi from the UK and Nottingham. Still got a long way to go, but when I feel ropey, I always put you on at work. Well, that's awesome. Thanks for
Mm-hmm.
that, Jess. That's great. I'm glad to know that maybe we're helping you some. And
Yes.
you commenting here and being here helps us as well.
Mm-hmm.
And 18 days sober, that's that's great.
That is
Yeah, we
great.
all have a long way to go in life. Sobriety is a journey, not a destination for me, and I
Absolutely.
continue to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
And being here and talking to you guys that are trying to get and stay sober, that's what helps me.
Cool. Chris says waking up with prayer and meditation, that's definitely a good thing. The way that you wake up affects your day.
Yeah,
I notice if I don't eat a little something in the morning, I end up feeling like crap around noon. And I used to not eat in the morning, and then I drink around noon. So changing that up and being like, well, let's get a little something in you, and I notice it affects my entire day. The way that you wake up will affect your day, big time. So if you wake up with prayer and meditation, um, you know, pretty cool. And then we got Naomi, our old
yeah,
buddy. I think she's been, well, I'm not saying old like she's old, but she's our old buddy, OLE. She says 1 year sober today. That is absolutely awesome.
congratulations.
I remember seeing her coming on when she's like, I've got a couple days, I got 50 days, I got 100 days. So that's awesome to see. And that goes to show that anyone here can do it, right? It's just one day at a time, just keep doing it. Keep focusing and focus on the things that make you not drink. Um, so, yeah, you want to take Jason? He's got a couple there.
Yep. Jason said I'm doing 90-90 again. It was really cool. There were 5 people getting 24-hour tokens a few days ago. That's great to see that. I was just somewhere where I saw a whole bunch of people getting the same thing. And 90-90 for me, I do go to the AA meetings quite often, and for years I was just basically every day. So I don't know how many days and how many days that was, but
I did
I
the
still
90
go
and 90 also.
I still go quite often. You know, the 90 and 90 is a great thing to do because it starts to get you in the habit of
Hmm.
sobriety. And it's good to get these things just ingrained into you where it's not a matter of whether you want to go or you don't want to go. For me, it's just a matter of that's what I do.
Yeah.
I do things for sobriety every day. I spent 24 hours a day drinking. I think I can spend an hour or two working on sobriety. That's just part of recovery for me.
Yep. Absolutely. PWK says the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. Thoughts? That's an interesting one. I think connection is part of the alcoholic journey. I don't think it's all of it. I truly believe that in the culture we live in, which is more or less a consumer culture where it's individualistic, based on buying things, based on status, I believe that connection is lost. And I think for some people, the connection is the aspect that's missing, which is why meetings is good for a lot of people. Is it the be all end all? Like if you go and you hang out with drinking buddies, you're going to have a connection. Like I had good connections with drinking buddies and deep connections. We talked about stuff. But did that get me sober? Did that cure my addiction? No, it didn't. So we have to focus on that, and we have to look at that as one part of the whole thing. It's like if you have a one-legged stool, if you sit on it, it's going to fall over. You need some more legs. One of the legs is getting something to combat the alcoholism because those neural pathways are still there. That's still happening. Like they're still here in me. I've been sober going on 5 years now. They're still there in people who've been sober 40 years, 50 years. So that's still there. So to say that, hey, if I go hang out with enough people, if I have enough friends, I'm not going to drink, I don't think that's actually correct. I think the opposite of addiction is sober mind. Sober mind. And sober mind encompasses a lot of things. Maybe you need the connection part there. I know I do. Maybe you need the part where you have spirituality. Maybe you need the part where you meditate or read every day. Maybe you need the part where, you patch things up with your family. All of these are part of sobriety. And sobriety, I think the opposite of addiction is sobriety because it's sober of mind. And again, remember, addiction or connection is just one part. What are your thoughts on that, Terry?
You just said it right there. That was beautifully said.
Cool. All right.
That's great.
Uh, cool.
Uh,
So yeah, you want to take THC Gamer there?
sure. THC, you say, I feel like I took a wrong turn a long, long time ago, and then that wrong turn took a wrong turn, and so on, was stuck in my past for a long, long time. Living in regret and fear is no way to live. Yeah, living in regret and fear it's definitely a bummer way to live. Living in gratitude, for me, is what keeps me happy and keeps me moving forward and looking forward. As far as taking a wrong turn a long, long time ago, I don't know that I took a wrong turn a long time ago. My addiction came on very, very slowly
Mm-hmm.
over decades. So I don't know. That's for somebody else to decide whether I was an alcoholic younger and just stayed an alcoholic for many years or not. But it's not something that I worry about anymore. I worry about where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't regret the past. I regret some of the things I did. I had, I've gone through a fairly blessed life. So alcohol just took it over, and I did have some rough years there. But even then, I had many things that were good and worth living for. And so, yeah, I don't know about that wrong turn for me,
Yeah,
but I can
I could
understand
say
that.
probably the same for me. I don't know if there was necessarily a time when I was like, fuck this, I'm going to go drink. And that was me driving the car over to the drinking, if you didn't catch that. And it wasn't really like a conscious decision. Now, some people do take wrong turns and they're like, well, what I would look at is more the turn that your mind takes.
Yep.
Because we could watch our mind take different directions, and I talk to my kids this all the time. And I wish there was like a school class. Maybe someday we'll have money to get lobbyists to make a school class about this, right? Where they should talk about like how to manage your feelings, how to deal with thoughts, how does the brain work, how to think. Because oftentimes we look at it as our mind is running the show. And it's like, well, I feel depressed today. Well, I got to live depressed because I feel depressed. I mean, what the hell? All these depressed thoughts. But we don't realize that our mind is taking little turns every single day. It's kind of like a rabbit trail. One of the things that I look at is, as an internet marketer, I look at how people reach conclusions. And I'm like, okay, if someone goes down the same trail, are they going to reach the same conclusion that I reach? Like for me, I've been studying all kinds of things, and I've been fascinated with American imperialism, which I'm against, by the way, but I'm fascinated with the topic of American imperialism. And I'm like, okay, if someone starts where I started, like, hey, this video is interesting, and goes to the next one and the next one, will they eventually be like, hey, I agree with this stance? And the same thing happens with your thoughts and your life. If you take certain turns, inevitably you're going to end up in a certain place. If you take a drink, the way that our minds work, if we keep drinking and keep drinking, inevitably you're going to end up where that person is. If you dwell on depressive thoughts, inevitably you're going to have this. Now, instead, what if we can now intervene and say, well, I'm going to take the inevitable path that leads to happiness or fulfillment or sobriety. And you can do that. Little turns each day. Like Terry said, it's not like one day he was like, screw it all. I'm going to just start having 5 gallons of vodka a day or whatever it is. Disclaimer, don't drink 5 gallons. I don't think anyone here ever had 5 gallons of vodka in a day. Probably like, I don't know, not even a gallon. But you got to look at that and say, okay, there were little turns. There were little turns that said, hey, this is good. And then his mind said, well, I feel this certain way. Let's keep this going. Let's keep this going. And it was little turns. It's like an airplane. You look at an airplane. When an airplane takes off in California and lands in New York, right? That airplane has a line that it's going to go on. Now, it never is really on the line. It's constantly turning and adjusting little bits. It's not going perfectly straight. It's turning and adjusting every little bit automatically. And what happens is your life is like this. Okay, if you have that line and you turn automatically and everything, you're going to eventually get there. Okay, you might have little turns and stuff, but you have your path. Now, if you don't have your path and you're just like, 90 degrees this way or 10 degrees this way or 1 degree this way. Hey, I like it this way. Let's go another one. Let's go another one. Let's go another. What the hell? We're seeing New York again. What's going on here? Right? That's what's going to happen if you don't focus on your path. So if you focus on your path of sobriety and you're like, this is the way I'm going to go, and I'm not going to make any like major wrong turns, but my mind could be swayed. I could go 4 degrees. 4 degrees is okay. Like 4 degrees could be, it's okay to go to the bar. That's cool. Right? And maybe for you it's not. Who knows? I'm at the bar. I might as well I'll have a Michelob Ultra Light. I mean, there's practically water anyway. There's a little bit more. Oh, shit. I mean, Bud Light. Who cares? Like, look at that guy. He's a wimp. He drinks Bud Light. I'm a big, tough alcoholic. I can have a Bud. Pretty soon you're drinking, fifths of booze, and you're like, how did I get here? You got here by little, and you're playing turn instead of looking at that path saying sobriety. Well, shit, you know what? I drank the other day, but this is a path I'm going. Right? And people who relapse, their plane just keeps going 10 degree, 10 degree, 10 degree, and they're like, where'd the freaking line go? Like, I was staying sober, and the line's here. I was going to California, and now I'm over in Idaho, and, there ain't nothing here but a bunch of sheep, and, what am I going to do? And it goes gradually, and that happens in all of our lives where it's just gradual, and you got to be on guard for that. And you got to set your sights and say, you know what? My goal is ultimate sobriety. That's the goal. Today. And today, I'm going to stay on course.
Right.
Well, maybe something will happen. It'll be bad, whatever. Maybe I'll shift a degree or whatever. That's okay. You got a bad mood. That's okay. Tomorrow, I know where my goal is. I'm going to California. I'm going here, and you're going to stay on that course. So I hope my rambling plane analogy helped someone other than me. But I think that's kind of how it looks is, it's not so much a big, long, wrong turn as much as little decisions on a daily basis.
Great analogy.
Thanks.
You're extra philosophical today. Good job.
There we go. Must be the lack of sleep.
Recipher says, do you still have drinks on the occasion, like the Super Bowl or birthday or something? Yes, I have drinks on occasion, but not with alcohol. I do not have alcohol ever.
Yeah,
and
same here.
We've discussed that a lot of times in our YouTube videos that we can't have any. A true alcoholic can't have any alcohol. It just doesn't work. If if a person can, my hat is off to them, absolutely. But for me, no, not even going to take that risk, and I know where it would lead me because I've tried it before.
That's a little wrong turn.
Yep.
There you go. Little. That might be little. You might be like, whatever. Yeah, I'm like, I knew this one guy who always put ice in his wine because he didn't want to get drunk, and I'm like, okay, well, that's one. It completely ruins a perfectly fine glass of wine, and two, it's a little wrong turn,
Yeah.
just a little bit. And we're not saying that is right or wrong or whatever. Some other people might be able to have wine, and that's
Absolutely.
fine. But for me, it lights up all that pinball shit in my brain that says I need more. I
Yeah.
need more. Got to have more. And pretty soon, pretty soon, you're just gonna go, and your plane's not even gonna have a direction anymore.
Right.
And that's where I found myself for almost 5 years ago, where I was like, "How did I get here? I was successful. I was happy. Everything was fine. How did I get here? I got here by giving in and saying, okay, well, I feel like shit being drunk, so now that I'm hungover, I'll drink again, and that'll help it. And then the next day, and the next day, and days turned to months, and months turned to weeks, or months didn't turn to weeks, they turned to years. And pretty soon I was like, how did I get here? How did my mind get warped so bad?
It
Is
just
by
happens so
letting go.
subtly.
It does happen subtly. And that's my worry, is that someone would be out there and say, hey, you know what? It's the Super Bowl. I mean, they're practically telling me that if I don't drink, my team is going to lose. There actually is a commercial about that. But the 49ers lost anyway. So, I mean, so much for that, right? And I drank a lot of Bud Light to watch them lose. They were like, hey, if you drink Bud Light, 49ers will win. And I was like, man, here we go. They're going to win. They're going to win. And I'm like, shit, they didn't win. Got to go get more. But, you're going to say, hey, maybe I'll have one during the Super Bowl. Well, maybe I'll just drink on Fridays. Fridays is cool. And then you drink Friday and you wake up hungover and you're like, well, shit, there's some left over in the fridge and I feel like shit hungover. So I'll drink. That'll help my hangover. And then the cycle continues and it just goes. And it's almost like clockwork. But the problem is when you're in it, you can't see it.
Right.
When you're in it, you don't see it. When you're in that plane and you don't know California is where I'm going or wherever I'm going, Sobriety is where I'm going, if you don't know that and you're not looking at it, you're just going to be spinning around going, well, I feel like shit today. Let's have this. Let's have that. Um, it's just going to crash. All right, let's take a couple others here. Let's see. You want to take Jess?
Sure. Since being
All right.
sober, I've stayed away from everyone that I know is drinking a lot. How will I know when I'm ready to be around other people that are? That's gonna, well, obviously it's a personal call, but
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was a matter of I stayed away from everybody and everything that had anything to do with alcohol as much as I could
Mm-hmm.
those first few months of sobriety. And then slowly, I did things, and that was it. I don't know that you're going to know when you're ready to be around a bunch of people partying. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I try to stay away from parties where I know that it's going to be a big drinking fest,
Mm-hmm.
or if I am going to go to something like that, I'll show up right when it starts, and I'm usually one of the first people to leave. And I can definitely tell when it's absolutely time to leave. You can tell when you're sober and everybody else is starting to kick in their buzz. But as far as kind of breaking into being around people that are drinking, that's a tough one. But start slowly. Maybe going out to dinner and your friend wants a glass of wine, and you should never ask your other people to change their drinking habits just because you don't drink. I would never do that, but sometimes they do, and I say you're welcome to have a glass of wine, maybe something like that. But really, it's a personal call, and I would always err on the side of caution. I know people with one guy in particular. He's got 25 years of sobriety, and he does not walk down the liquor aisle at the grocery store, and he stays out of the liquor stores at the corner. Even if he's just going to get a lottery ticket, he will go to places that don't sell alcohol to get his lottery ticket, and that's just his personal deal. That he chooses to stay completely away from that stuff.
Yep.
And for me, I'm a professional caterer. I deal with alcohol all the time, so maybe I'm better equipped because I've been working around it for so long that I can handle it. I don't know, but really, it's a personal call.
Yeah. And for me, I didn't. I love to cook, and some cooking stuff you just put wine in. That's just how
Yeah.
you cook certain things. And it took me after about 2 years of sobriety, I started cooking with cooking wine. Which, by the way, I had a problem with cooking wine because that's all I had one time, and it's literally like you almost throw up while you drink it. But I was so much of an alcoholic, I drank wine that tasted like someone probably took a pee in it, which was gross. It was disgusting. Not that I know what that tastes like, but I'd imagine. And it was just foul. So I started cooking with those, and they are a little too salty to cook with. I mean, it does totally dampen the taste. And then, I think about 3 years into sobriety, I started cooking with regular wine, and my wife would check up on me and be like, "Hey, you good?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." And I find that now I'm okay around it. Like at that concert I went to, the smell was very strong. That and some kind of weird turpentine smell, which I don't know. Maybe some guy had some new drink I hadn't heard of. But I think they were doing something on the wood floors. And now I'm okay because I just don't want it.
Right.
Like I have kind of looked at it, and my brain goes to the bad thoughts. Like I go to, wow, you're going to feel like shit. You're going to go insane. Like that's what that smell equals for me. So associate it. Start associating it. Like when you smell it, instead of going, ooh, hey, yeah, that's a 1954 Chateau, whatever. Be like, hey, that's a big freaking bottle of throw up and anxiety and you
Yeah.
know, missing the toilet and falling over and a lot of what brought me into needing recovery in the beginning. And if you constantly tell yourself, your mind will start to do that. I mean, that's how our minds work, which is it's a wonderful blessing and it's also a curse because if you don't know this, then you're going to be succumbed to it and you'll be like, man, why am I always craving alcohol? Well, you're craving alcohol because you have 400,000 bottles of alcohol in your life and you only remember the good stuff. Start remembering the bad, right? When you say, yeah, man, going to the bar would be good. I'd love to numb this pain. Be like, yeah, but who's going to numb the pain tomorrow? Probably another bottle. And who's going to numb the pain the next day from the pain, from the bottle, from the hangover, from the racing thoughts, from the anxiety? Probably another one. And then what's going to happen a month from now when I'm sitting there like I did, contemplating suicide because I drank? Is that what I want? Sure. Go to the bar, order one, Mark. Go for it. Not going to happen. So, all right.
Ricardo, I
Yes.
stopped drinking hard alcohol a long time ago and I don't drink strong beers. But now the problem is when I buy light beer, I need 12 of them to get the effect. Yep, that's a very common thing for an alcoholic is to switch it up, thinking that that's going to help. I did a lot of switching up, but I always ended up back at the hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did switch it up, yeah, like if I switched it to beer, I'd drink a ton of them, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what I needed to do to get the effect. Or for me at that point was to feel normal, or
Mm-hmm.
feel as close to normal as I was able to get, which was not very close.
And I think also there's a lot in that comment because you're still chasing the effect.
Yep.
Like sobriety is about learning to live without that. How can I deal with this? Because sometimes I was like, how am I going to deal with certain issues? Or what am I going to do when someone I love passes? How am I going to deal with that sober? I used to think about stuff like this because I didn't know how to. How am I going to go to, some uncomfortable event sober? Like I used to go to things because I get severe anxiety at schools and things like that. And as a dad, you have to go to school functions. And I'm sitting there like freaking anxious as hell. I used to go to them halfway, 2.5 sheets to the wind. And that worked. It would sort of, if you like being all sideways and everyone being like, who's the drunk guy, And then I would think about how am I going to deal with it. And now I'm like, I just deal with it. I go there. The anxiety's, it's there, but fuck it, I mean, I'm not going to drink because I know drinking makes it worse. And I know the next time I go, if I don't drink, it's going to be way worse because I did drink the time before. And it's just a big mess. And I was chasing the effect alcohol did. When you look at cravings, you are not craving it. It is an acquired taste. I don't think anyone's like, ooh, yay, whiskey the first time they drink it. They're like, oh my God, this is like freaking rubbing alcohol. And it's not, disclaimer, don't ever drink rubbing alcohol. That is terrible. It'll put you in the hospital. But that's your first impression. Is like, okay, what's going on? And you're chasing the effect, not the taste. So when you smell it, when you feel it, when you think about it, when you think about it in your hand, remember that story that I told you guys in one of the letters where I was like, hey, I was there at lunch and I was anxious and I felt like shit and I didn't have alcohol in the house, so I had to go to lunch to get it. And I was jittery and I was shaking. Soon as a lady came around that corner from the bar to bring my drink, she had my big tall drink in her hand, anxiety went away. I hadn't taken a sip. And here I am, and all the effects are happening, and I didn't even sip it. That's my mind. Your mind is doing all this. The effect you want, you can create in your mind without the alcohol. There's people, if you ever watch spiritual stuff, I came from crazy churches. And these churches had this thing called Drunk in the Holy Spirit. If you're ever bored, watch it on YouTube, and you'll be like, wow, these people exist? What the hell's going on with our planet? And they would literally have a revival meeting, and they would all act like they're piss drunk. And you would think they were piss drunk. The pastor probably was, but everyone else wasn't. And they're acting as if they're drunk. And they're getting the same effects as if they're drunk, all in their mind without having taken a sip. So all of this exists in our mind anyway. So I think that's an interesting thing to look at, is the effect is there. You want calmness? Go sit outside and be calm. You want to not think about something? You have the ability to not think about it. You don't fight with it. You don't go, God damn, you thought, get the hell out of here, thought. You sit there and you go, these thoughts are going to happen. Of course I'm going to think about this. The stock market crashed and I'm a stockbroker. I'm going to think about it. But instead right now I'm just going to, stock market, whatever, okay. You see it on the news, whatever. First of all, turn the damn news off. But you're going to look at it, and those effects are there anyway. You can deal with life sober. You don't need the effects of alcohol to make it through the day. Don't need it. You just think you do. All right, I'm done ranting. We'll move on.
You are not.
I'm never done ranting.
It's okay. It's all good. I like your rants, Marcus.
Cool.
I lost where we are. Let's see.
Alcohol is great fuel for vehicles, but not humans. They were talking about ethanol in alcohol, I think it was.
Well, I think alcohol works for many people.
Sure.
So, and that's okay. No problem.
Just not me.
Right. The great Homo sapien sapien. I stopped alcohol, and it's now 8 years. I think you mean I'm better lonely instead of drinking with a lot of fake friends. And being sober, it's a good thing. And the one thing with being sober is maybe you're lonely, but there's lots of things that you can do sober to not be lonely. And that's what when I was drinking, I thought that was impossible. I have to drink to have friends. And once I got sober, I started to learn what I could do and have a very enjoyable and not lonely life.
Yeah, and it is actually. You can meet a lot of people. Like I started getting involved in the YouTube community. Great people. I was like, wow, these aren't like business meetings at all. And it's funny because one of the YouTube groups is ran by a Mormon community, and they don't drink. They don't even have coffee. But they're not dogmatic about it. They're like, hey, if this is our YouTube meeting, and if people want to drink, that's fine. But it's good because a lot of people don't drink, and I hang out with them, and we have a great time. And maybe there's one guy drinking or two or whatever. But you can find groups that exist without alcohol. There's a lot of them. Way more than you would think. And the amount of people who are actually alcoholic drinkers is probably pretty low. I mean, I don't know, like 10% of America or something. I think that might be the statistics. I could be way off, but I think I read that somewhere.
Oh, here's Chris's answer from, I don't know, what was it, 15 minutes ago? Sorry about that, Chris. I meant a GTM was a go-to for me is a meeting. Okay. Right on. There you go.
We were all Googling what the hell a GTM drink was.
Thanks for that. Sorry for the late acknowledgement. PWK says the core of addiction is about not wanting to be present in your life because your life is a too painful place to be.
I
For
think
me,
that's fair.
yeah,
Yeah.
I could see some truth to that. Absolutely.
hmm Yeah. I wouldn't call it like gospel truth, but I think it's fair to say. Um, some people, they drink because they're happy, and maybe they just get caught up. Because I truly believe that if everyone drank as much as I drank, they'd be an alcoholic. Whether they were happy, sad, whether they had mental illness, whether they were completely straight, middle of the road person, if they drank as much as me, they would be an alcoholic because that's what alcohol eventually does to you. Um, so, you know, I would look at it that way. There's two sides to the coin.
And if I was to sit there and sit down and analyze my alcohol progression, I don't know that I didn't want to be present in my life. My life was pretty good,
hmm
and I enjoyed the alcohol, and I slowly got to the point where I needed more and more.
And I
So
would
I don't.
say
Yeah, go ahead.
towards the end, that was true for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, me
hmm
too.
Yeah.
But as my addiction was taking hold, I don't know that that was really the. I didn't want to be away from my life. Things were going well. I just wanted more alcohol. For
hmm
me, the core of my addiction was my addiction. I wanted more,
hmm
and it had changed my brain. So yeah, I could see truth to that, but at the same time, maybe a little different for me. A
hmm
lot of people that's I could see that absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, let's see. You want to take another one?
Yeah. Chris says his life is full of different. Half of his face is tattooed. Says that he's different. He tattooed his face when he got sober. Cool. Um, I've seen some tattoo faces that look pretty cool. One guy had like this whole thing on his head, which was pretty awesome. For me, I'm not a tattoo guy because I don't like needles or doctors or rubber gloves or anything like that. If they could just like iron one on me, I'd probably do that. But and I'm not that tough looking. I don't think that would be good. Like if I got an anchor on my arm, they'd be like, "Didn't Popeye have a muscle?" I'd be like, "Yeah, but I had a muscle once." So who knows? Let's see. THC Gamer says sobriety is not easy, but it's simple. Absolutely, very safe to say. That's what my channel is: prayer and meditation. Cool. That's good. So if you
Right.
guys like prayer and meditation, check out Chris Hopper. I don't know Chris, so I don't know what he talks about, but um, his stuff's check it out if you're into that stuff. Maybe we'll have him on the show sometime. Lynn says it's awesome not to wake up with a hangover. That's like one of the biggest blessings is not waking up with a hangover.
Yeah.
What am I smoking on today? We have Match Walnut Tobacco. So good stuff, and it just keeps going out. Um, a lot of people ask me, do I smoke pot? I don't. That's my personal preference. I know a lot of people do for, mellow. I know for me, it'd probably lead to more stuff because I like the effect too much. Um, but if you like it, we're not against it. So whatever works for you. Um, okay, sponsoring people really helps my sobriety as well. Yeah, good. Franco, can you talk a little bit about dealing with the idea of never drinking again? Never is such a long time. It is a long time, but I think what you got to do is you got to look at the voice that's saying that. What usually tells you and freaks you out about not drinking forever is the alcohol itself. Like that's what happens because our society has indoctrinated us with alcohol as like a rite of passage. When you're 21, you have the rite of passage and you drink. That's what you do. And so that's a big thing. And then we have, it's over at the wedding and it's over here and it's at this and you got to celebrate. A lot of it is cultural conditioning. And I would look at it the way other people do, like, people that are of the Mormon faith don't drink ever. And I'm not promoting that. It just happened to come up twice. I'm not religious or anything like that. Used to be, but not so much anymore. So I would look at it that way. Like the drink is telling you, oh, really, never? But again, focus on today. Like if that freaks you out, if you're like, dude, I'm 20 and I'm not even 21 and I'm an alcoholic, but really, I'm not going to drink for the rest of my life, focus on a year. After a year of sobriety, revisit it. Say, mate, do I want to? I've listened to Marcus, listened to Terry. Maybe I'm a little different. Who knows? Or maybe you're not. For me, I don't want to take the chance And I've gotten to a place in my life where I'm like, I've lived without it for 4 years. The time I did live with it, it didn't work. Yeah, I don't think saying I'm not going to drink the rest of my life is not a big deal anymore. And I think it passes. Like, did you feel that way, Terry, when you first got sober? You're like, oh my God. Like, what if I'm 85 and I want a tonic or gin and tonic or whatever?
That was more of a feeling of when I was still drinking. I thought, what am I going to do when I get sober? I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna I'm gonna have no life. And
Yeah.
my life is much fuller and better now that I am sober and have been sober a little while. And yeah, it's much better.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the same thoughts as you. As I don't, I know that it wouldn't work if I was to start drinking again. I don't romanticize the drink anymore. Sure, of course, I get the thoughts of, like I remember being at a baseball game and it was hot and some guy had nice cold beer that he's walking by me with. And I saw that and said, yeah, that looks good. But that's about as far as that romanticizing the drink will go.
Mm-hmm.
And no, sobriety is just a great thing. I'm okay to say that I'll never drink again. But the thing is I have to be aware that it doesn't take much to have that drink again. So I don't really look at it as I'll never drink again. I look at it as I'm going to work on my sobriety every day, and hopefully I won't have a drink again. But
And I always look at the fact that in my almost 40 years of being alive, I've probably drank more in my life than most people will drink in about 5 lifetimes. So I think I'm good. Like, I just caught up on it really early. I'm done, right? I'm like, people ask, it's like, oh, I'm done. I had a lot of alcohol in my life, and I'm good. So you just, saved it all up in one part. That is tobacco. It's not anything else. Okay, what do we got here? I lost my place. You want to take the next one here?
sure, Chris says, never is a start. God removes obsession, not thought. We will always think of weird stuff.
True.
Yeah, that's right. My obsession has been lifted. And as I just said, you get the occasional thoughts, and I have to not react to those thoughts. I need to pause and think about what I'm going to do, not to turn the wrong direction, and continue to do the next right thing. And you just said that in your next comment. As long as we stay sober, stay connected with God, do the next right thing, never doesn't seem to be so bad. And that's it for me, is doing the next right thing. And Chris, you've been sober 7 years. Awesome. That's killer. Let's see.
All right. I totally lost my place. We got a bunch coming in here.
Lynn said the only thing is I'm smoking a lot more since I stopped drinking. And yeah, I smoked a lot when I quit drinking as well. And I was told by the doctors to stop everything at once. And my sober friend said, you worry about the drinking because that's going to kill you a lot quicker, and then worry about the smoking. But once again, we're not doctors, so you do need to consult a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, take care of the drinking, that's for sure.
All right. Chris says, as long as we stay connected to God, do the next right thing, never doesn't seem bad. Yeah, I mean, if you stay connected to the source, whether you call it God, whether you call it whatever, the everything, or as Native Americans called it, the Great Spirit, be connected to something other than yourself. Because when I'm connected to myself, my thoughts are cycle. Like, there's a good quote by Alan Watts. He says, a person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except thoughts. And that might sound weird, but it's absolutely true. Like, if you think out all the time, all you're doing is thinking about your thoughts. And if you want to get out of that, you need to get new thoughts, whether it's from like a spiritual realm, whether it's from listening to talks, whether it's from reading different things, whether it's going to meetings, whatever it is, you got to put stuff in there. Because I know, Terry knows, when we're alone and we just sit there and think about our thoughts and don't check them, we're pretty crazy people. Right? It's a scary place in there. But it doesn't have to be, because I could look at it and be like, thoughts are just thoughts. Big deal. It's what it is. So we could say connected to. Something outside ourselves. Let's see here. I agree. Wrong turn, live in regret. I think we got that one. He chooses gratitude. That's good. I hear echoes on the feed. Is anyone else getting echoes? I don't think so. Okay, regretting the past is detrimental to sobriety, although thinking of who you can help is the key. Yeah, that's pretty good. Focusing on someone else rather than what you did is always good. All right, Crystal says, Marcus, you got me into Audible talks. Yes, Audible is good. I need to get an affiliate link for Audible. I will do that. Bought her first book, Mel Robbins. I actually have a talk about the Mel Robbins book. However, you might not like it if you totally love Mel Robbins, because it's kind of a opposite take. It's on my other YouTube channel. But if you Google her most popular book, you'll find that talk. I find that sometimes self-help stuff can get us in a jam because it focuses so much on immediate and it focuses so much on not dealing with the issue. And one of the things her thing says is like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule, where no matter what you're doing, you just count backwards from 5 and you just don't do it. And I'm like, okay, that's cute and it probably works for people. But also we need to look at what's going on, because combating a physical mental addiction is a lot more than counting backward from 5. I wish it was easy, but
yeah,
you know, and maybe, hey, if it works for you, then go for it. So yeah, I would just be very guardful of your mind and what you put in it and what works, and find the path that works for you. Find something that's solid that'll stand the test of time. Okay, Veronica says, congrats on 7 years, Chris. 7 is my lucky number. Good. Let's see you get to 7, and maybe you'll have a lucky year or something. I have no idea how luck works. I keep playing the lottery, and I can't even get one damn number. I did not even one. I'm like, seriously, not even 38. I don't even want $1. I just want one number. But anyway. Let's see. I love talking. Sobriety gave me a new life. Would you ban alcohol if you could? No. I would educate the world on alcoholism. I would not ban it. I would educate people about it.
right.
And that's kind of our goal here. And if you like what we're doing, you could support us over at talksober.com. There's a big button. Terry's actually working on a really cool members area that takes you through like a 30-day sobriety process. It's got videos. It's got PDFs. He's working his butt off, and we taught him to do HTML so he can like make it fancy. And parts of it are ready now. If you want to go in there, you can get it. Otherwise, I think we're going to start having a members-only call where you guys can talk about more personal stuff, kind of like in a tight group instead of like, hey, everything you say is on YouTube. You know, so that kind of thing. But that's over at talksober.com. Chris, I must stop trying to stay sober. Instead, put the effort into sobriety. Try is not an action word. True. If you ban alcohol, that takes away the physical choice. Everyone is not an alcoholic. Taking that away from non-alcoholic would not be fair. I agree.
Right. Yeah.
Veronica, I'm so grateful to have found this channel. I just moved, and I'm trying to make as many meetings as possible. I love them, and when I can't, I was trying to find something online that would help get me through. Yeah, and you can always watch previous meetings. They're always here. Like if you miss this, it's instantly up on YouTube. So you just keep the link and, you know, subscribe to Talk Sober YouTube, and you'll always get them, which is cool. All right, you want to take a couple others? I think we're almost out of time here.
Yep.
But we could take a couple more.
Chris says we all should stick together to improve mindsets of people who are not sure about never drinking again.
Agree.
Yeah, I agree. We stay there and provide them information, help them decide if they need to not drink again or they're okay or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. Veronica, this is amazing, and I am so thankful to everyone that is participating. I am thankful as well, Veronica, and thank you for saying that. Yeah, I know Chris said earlier, I love talking sobriety for it gave me a new life. And you know what, Chris? Sobriety allowed me to talk, getting sober allowed me to talk sobriety. And I'm very thankful for that as well. It's that's definitely part of my sobriety, is trying to help others.
And he says it's hard to be sober when you drink sometimes. Very hard. I know it's hard for me. I don't drink one thing. Like I get a box of Coke and I drink the box of Coke. I get a box of beer. I don't leave stuff out. We're not the kind of people that are like, well, I'm done with wine. We're not like that. We're like, oh, you're done with wine? I'm not done. Give me yours. So you got to look at that. And MM says, I got a pinball game in my head too. Yep. Lynn says she put ice in her wine too. Remember, you are not alone. I will
Yeah.
never forget the time I was in rehab and I was describing how shameful I was that I hid beer under the barbecue grates. Like there's little grates, you can hide it under there perfectly. Don't do it, by the way. And this other guy did too, and I'm like, what the hell? We're not as rare as we think.
Yeah.
Alcohol makes us do stupid but similar things.
Yeah.
All right, let's take some really important ones before we get out of here. Are there any really important ones you saw stand out?
I'm looking. Um,
And that's not to say that the ones we don't pick are not important. You guys are all important. Um, just for sake of time, we have to skim through a little bit.
well, Chris says, I do not have a problem at night. I love late meetings. So you must go to late meetings because maybe that was when you were drinking a lot. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying, but yeah, that's great. Late meetings. I usually go early. Well, middle of the day is when I'd go. But I was a 24-hour day drinker, so yeah, I go to some late, some earlies. Um,
Franco's got an interesting. It says, "What's wrong with having a bender once a month? It's not like I'm drinking every day. Why are you here?" I would question that motive. Like, why would you be watching a channel if alcohol is not producing negative effects in your life? If it's not producing negative effects, then bend all you want. But if it is having negative effects, I would look at that and say, why am I doing this? Like, why would I constantly do that? Like, if I came up and hit myself in the head and you're like, dude, knock it off. And I'm like, why? And you're like, dude, knock it off because I keep seeing you getting headache pills. Like, it's giving you headaches. And I'm like, well, I like it. I mean, who are you to tell me? I mean, I just do it once in a while. But every time you do, you get a headache. With alcohol, if every time you drink alcohol, there's negative effects in your life, maybe a bender's not a good idea.
yeah.
You know, maybe you need to have a straighter and go straight and, focus on that. Okay, haven't been to a doctor in a long time. Go to the doctor, Lynn. They're good. They went to school to figure out everything. But, everyone should always go just to check up. I think it's a good idea, especially if you've been drinking a while, even if you're like the bender guy.
Veronica says, I literally came from rehab to a whole new state with only one bus that runs in and out once every hour and nothing really in walking distance. I've been, I don't know where the rest of that is, but as far as if you're talking about going to meetings or whatever, or, well, there's online ways you can talk to people that are sober. That's one thing. But the other thing is that I wanted to point out was, what did you do for drinking? I went through just whatever. It didn't matter. Rainstorm. I had my license taken away, so I'd walk to get my booze.
Same
I
with me.
would do anything to get booze. Didn't have money. I figured it out. Scraped up the pennies. Did anything. And so I was willing to ride my bike or take the bus to a meeting or whatever I had to do to stay sober. And that's what I just kept in mind, that I would do anything to get drunk. So I had to do certain things to stay sober as well.
Yep. And if everyone here took half the time and half the effort to stay sober as they did drinking, I think you'd have a good chance. Because I spent a lot of time trying to drink.
Right on.
All right. Let's see. Anything? Let's do like a 3-minute round. If there's anything like really pressing that you want to go over, type it in the comments as a new comment. Even if it's before, if it's something on your mind that's pressing, type it in. We'll give you guys 3 minutes to type those in, and then we'll wrap up here.
I want to say hi, Sachin. Good to see you again. You're here almost every time. That's great to see.
And I like Robert Greene. I haven't read that book, but I do. It's on my list.
Right on.
Lynn says, I feel so free now that I don't have to stress about getting more wine. Yeah, exactly. Like I used to have it. I need to have
Totally.
it.
That was first thought in my mind every day is, okay, do I have enough? How am I going to get more? Just everything that had to do with drinking.
Yep. Gary says he's often had anxiety for a full week after a heavy session. Totally. Yeah, I would get it almost a full week after one day of drinking. And sadly, mine lasted for like a year. I had to learn to tame my anxiety for about a year. I still have it. It's just not as bad. Like, I don't pay too much attention to it anymore.
Gary says, I will drink anything from 10 to 16 cans of beer every day. I've tried several times to stop, and the longest I've lasted was 4 months. I've also had depression, but I feel alcohol helps me until the next day. And yeah, Gary, you're not alone. That's what I hear that all the time. I see it all the time. It's a difficult thing to do, to quit. But you just try and try. Keep trying. Come here every week. Talk to us. And go to a doctor. They can give you a lot of resources to help try. And here at Talk Sober, we're really big believers in doing whatever it takes. It's not just us. There's many ways to get sober, and use all of them.
Yep, absolutely. Oh man,
Wake
I'm
up.
tired today. What's that?
Nothing. I just told you to wake up.
Yeah, I know. I didn't get good sleep. We went to that concert and I just haven't slept since. Very good.
Okay.
So
Right on.
I don't know why. Let's see. Sachin's been from on this channel since the start, and we've helped him stay sober. Awesome.
Right on.
Glad to hear it. And he likes good books too. So what better than drinking is learning.
Yes.
I love to learn. It's great.
All right, everybody.
All right, so I think we're good for today. We will see you guys next week. If you do want to support the channel, go to talksober.com. Right now, we're right around break even, but we want to make it more of a thing so we can help more people. One of our goals is to have Terry start full time to build little resources for everyone, stuff like that. So if you do want to support that and you like that idea, go over to talksober.com. Right now, the thing is like $67 a month, and it comes with like all kinds of PDFs and audios of all our stuff, so you can put it on your phone, resources and tools that we're working on for you as well. If you feel like you need the resources and you cannot afford it, let us know, and we'll figure out a way to get you in there. But if you can support it, and you like what we're doing, this is a self-funded project. For the first 2 years, we just funded it out of one of my other businesses and Terry's efforts as well. So if you guys want to help, we would much appreciate that, as we would like to reach as many people as possible, because for everyone here, there's probably 100,000 others that can't make it happen. Crystal, reach out to us, and we'll figure out a way to get you those resources and stuff. Just go to talksober.com. There should be a contact button or something on there, and we'll get you in there. So thanks for joining, and we'll see you guys next week. Stay sober, and we'll go from there. Any last-minute words of wisdom, Terry?
Stay sober, everybody.
All right. Thanks, guys.
1 minute at a time.
All right. See you next week.
Thank you.